Right, so I think we are live. This live Q&A is going to be a little bit different because rather than me doing everything myself, I've actually got my beautiful assistant sat to my left who's also going to be checking the chat. Because yeah, checking the chat, the Facebook group, and everything else at the same time is normally a bit much. So hello everybody, please put in the chat whether you can actually see and hear me or not to make sure that's working. And I will find out in about 20 seconds because I think there's a 20-second delay. So assuming it is all going out live, I'm going to start with the first question that I've had. The first real question is from Rick. Hello, if you're watching, Rick. What game do you always win when playing? Now, over the time that I've been playing games, there have been a few games where I always seem to win. And I'll answer your second question first. What game do you always do? You feel that your mind works better on certain types of games? Yes. There are certain types of games, and it's hard for me to say what those types of games are, where my natural play style, the natural play style that I have when I go into a game, just seems to work. And certain games are suited for that. So I remember, this is going back a long time now, 15 or so years, a game came out called Entdecker. And it was kind of an exploration game with tile laying and everything else. And I won my first 6 games of it. And I probably haven't played it since. Now, does that mean I was an expert at the game? Well, no, not really. I just played that game kind of the way that I normally play games. And whatever style I play games with seemed to work for that game. So let's just have a quick look. Is it going out live? Can people hear me? People can hear me. Excellent. Right. Hello, everybody. So that's good for a game like Entdecker. Now, if we look at other games, the problem with me and the games that I play is that there's a learning curve, and I go up that learning curve, and then I plateau, and I reach a plateau fairly early, and then I can't seem to get any better. And it's because I find it very difficult to get out of a habit. So if we take Through the Ages, for example, I've played Through the Ages 300-400 times. Am I any better at the game now than I was 300 times ago? No. And that's because when I start playing it, I fall into my pattern and I can't seem to get out of that pattern. So I don't actually improve as a player. So once I've played a game a couple of times, repeated plays for me don't generally make me any better at the game. But certain games are obviously suited to my natural play style. And that's not a certain type of game. So you can't say, oh, Paul's good at worker placement games or Paul's good at games with stocks and shares. It's just the way that the mechanisms sort of mesh together. But yeah, there are certain games that I've played that I do better at, and certain games that I can't seem to win at all. So a quick look at the questions. Mike, hello, Mike. When I do rules editing, how far along do you like the rules? Start from scratch? Or in other words, when the process do right. So my favorite type of rules editing, if I could choose, is an already published game where the rulebook is known for being bad, because it's easier. What I do is I take an existing rulebook and then I read all of the comments about why the rulebook was terrible and all of those questions that were asked along the way and all of the answers. And I make a second edition rulebook and I do it better. Being given a rulebook from scratch, like a blank piece of paper, I can do that. It is a lot harder. It doesn't mean I don't enjoy it, because there is a benefit to being involved right at the start. One of the most difficult things is where I get past a rule book, which the designer or the publisher has written, that they say, oh yeah, this should be good. It should be good to go. 10 of my friends have read it and it's all fine. We just want you to have a look at it. And then I look at it and I'm like, I have absolutely no idea how to play the game and everything's in the wrong place. Because then you've got to have a discussion with them and say, look, I'm afraid your rule book needs a lot of work. But, you know, the main thing for me is the end result. Once that rule book gets out there and people start getting the game and reading it and going, oh yeah, we were able to learn the game without any questions, that's the satisfying bit. Right, a question in from Jamie. Hello, Jamie. Thanks for joining us. No, not Jamie. Just say hi. Right, he's not got any questions then. He's off to Snakes and Ladders to try out Fireball Island prototype. Right, have a good day, and I'll speak to you soon. I'll see you in a few months. Right, Susie. Hello, Susie. Question from Debs. Deb's not got her own account then. What's the funniest thing that's happened to you or a player during a demo? Funniest? Oh, I told you about the time I made somebody cry while playing Galaxy Trucker. That's probably not the funniest. That actually made me quite nervous, actually. Yeah, I'm going to have to think about that one. I'll try and think about that one in the background and come back to you. There's been a lot of, depends on the game. Obviously, demoing things like Codenames and things like that. There's been a number of very memorable things that have happened. Some of which were very funny in the way that they happened. Your standard Euro game, for example, there's a lot less chance of something funny happening within the game than in one of the social games. Right, Nicola, how are you coping without a car? Right, so good question. For those people who don't know, and that's probably not Nicola, it's probably Chris, because I think it was Chris last time. So yeah, for those people who don't know, I got rid of my car 2 weeks ago. So this is the first time in 31 years that I have been without a car. My dad got me a Ford Escort Estate when I was 17 to learn to drive in. And I've had not the same car. I did get rid of that, but I've had a car ever since. And with me working from home and hardly leaving the house, and with local people like Paul and Steve who go to the places I go to, who are happy to drive me, then my need for having a car has become less and less. And Vicky has a car, so at weekends we use hers. And I really thought I would miss not having a car. So I got rid of it because it was sat on the driveway. It's 13 years old. It was rusting. It wasn't in any fit state. I only just managed to get it started to take it to the scrapyard. And people were like, oh, right, well, now you're without it, you'll now see what it's like without a car. But to be honest, that car had sat there for 4 or 5 months on the driveway, not doing anything whatsoever. And in the one time when I needed to use it to take Bramble to the vets in January, it didn't start. So effectively, I've been without a car for 5 months. So it wasn't a case of getting rid of it and seeing how I'll cope. I've already been coping without it for a long time. I was a bit sad when we drove away from the scrapyard, but apart from that, been absolutely fine. And obviously, it's now saving me money not having one. So that's a good thing. Right. Brent Sanderson. What some of your hybrid games are Merry Trash or party games? So yeah, so as you know, I'm a Euro gamer, but that's not to say, and I don't do party games, but there are some party games which I have played which I really, really enjoy. So Time's Up is probably the best party game I know. It's just really enjoyable and it's a lot of fun, but it's a cleverly designed game. And the reason why I don't generally play party games is because most of them, I'm generalizing here, they're just silly fun. They're not actually a good game within that. This might be a wrong opinion. This has been my opinion of a lot of party games. But the party games which are actually very good and well-designed and clever games that work really well, like Time's Up, I do enjoy playing them. So as long as there's a good game behind it, then I'll play it. We this weekend, we played a few games of Word Slam, which you could class as a party game. It's suitable for large numbers of people. It's easy to play. It doesn't take long, but it's really good fun. So yeah, really enjoy that one. In terms of the Ameritrash side, you know, if we go back to the Spirit Island discussion about whether it's a Euro game or not, I believe that Spirit Island is 70% or 80% Euro, and the rest of it is the Ameritrash, is the other end of the scale. What I don't like is the pure 100%, you know, move around, roll dice. So if we say Talisman, for example, as the most classic Ameritrash, roll to see how far you move, then roll to see what happens, or draw a random card. Oh, it's a monster. Roll to see whether you fight it. That's just, you know, that's just totally the other end of the scale. I would not enjoy that at all. But ones that have a Ameritrash element, you know, like Spirit Island, Gloomhaven, for example. Gloomhaven is a lot of Euro elements in there, but when you come to the combat, you flip a card over to see, you know, how much your attack is modified by. And one of those cards is that you don't do any damage, and one of them is you do double. So, and I know that is no different than rolling a dice, although you can modify the deck, but you know, I still really enjoy the game. So I don't mind if it has some Ameritrash elements, but not if it's completely Ameritrash. Right, next question. Oh, Adam's here. Hello, Adam. Ian, is it worth trying to get the Pillars of the Earth expansion for a reasonable price? Yes and no. I think the base Pillars of the Earth game is great for 3 players with the fix. The fix was introduced with the expansion, but only if you're playing with 5 and 6 players. I'm not sure why they did that. That fix for me just makes the base game better. So the rules for the fix are in the expansion, but it tells you to only use them when you're playing with 5 and 6 players. I think that's nonsense. I think you should use them with anything, and you don't need the expansion to implement the fix. What the expansion does, it takes it up to 5 and 6 players. There are some people who will say the expansion is essential. I don't think it is. I don't think the game is any better with the expansion, maybe. But the expansion does allow you to play it with 5 or 6 players. So if you can get it for a reasonable price, sure. But I don't think it's worth going out of your way for. Chris, he's got a friend who's really bad at teaching games. He's very haphazard, stream of consciousness. How do I tell him he needs to do it differently? And how does he get better? Right. Well, the first thing about getting better is realizing that you have a problem. If he thinks that he's good at teaching games, then there's the first problem. He's overcoming that. Once he if you're able to explain to him that he isn't good at teaching games, then there are 2 ways it can go. He can either get better or not get better, because some people, we all have skills. We all have our own skills. There are certain things in life that I've learned after all of these years that I just can't do. And it used to frustrate me. And every time I tried to do them, it would go wrong. And now I've learned there are some things that I'm just not good at, and there's just no point in me even trying to do them. And some people are just not good at teaching games. So if he's in that category, then it doesn't matter. He can make small improvements, but if he's just no good at it, then it's not going to work. How you get better is realizing where you're going wrong. Now, there are various methods for teaching games. I have my own method. So a lot of it comes with practice. And I'm more than happy to sit down with anybody and go through the general approach that I have to teaching games. Start with the setting, start with how you win, start very, very high level, and then drill down into the details. But, I've been teaching games now for 35 years to people. How old am I? 30, yeah, 35 years is about how long I've been teaching people how to play games. So I've had a lot of experience at doing it. I hope that helped. Right, Andy. Hello, Andy. Did you finish your Talon card modifications? I've not played Talon since. Since I did that video, I've not played it. I want to. It's one of those games that I want to play, but when you get caught up in all of the other games, and with working as much as I do, it's hard to go back to. So no, I didn't get it finished. It shouldn't take me that long to finish because I've got all the Photoshop files together. It's just it's on the bottom of a list of things to do at the moment. But I'd be happy to play the game with you at Manacon if, for example, we can put some time aside and do that. Icarus Must Burn, hello. Would be great to see a list of favorite rule books for each genre, or top 10 rule books. Oh, yeah, top 10 rule books. That's I can do that. There's no reason I think why I couldn't. But it's like doing a top 10 games. It's very, very hard for me to do. I mean, I've said on a number of podcasts and these things before that Great Western Trail is an awesome rulebook. Mombasa. There are many, many great rulebooks out there. Not mentioning the ones that I've been involved in. The other ones, there's lots of terrible ones as well. So yeah, good idea. We'll come back to that. Maybe a Patreon stretch goal at some point. Dave. Hello, Dave. Dave, not sure if anybody's asked on previous Q&As, is there a game you, question mark, not physically, or thought about designing one? I don't get that.
Have you thought about
Oh, have I thought about designing a game? Yes, and I have. So I have talked about this on previous things. I don't know what. I've been wanting to design a game. Yeah, so when I was a kid and I was watching the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon on TV in the 80s, I wanted to design a role-playing game based on that cartoon. And I had loads and loads of notes and scribbles and everything else. So I've been wanting to design a game for a very, very long time. And then in the 90s, I designed a game based on a play-by-email game that I was playing, which was a hexed-based game where each hex had a different terrain type, and you would roll dice at the start of the turn, and that would decide what hexes generated resources. Sound familiar? And then a game called Settlers of Catan came out. Now, my game was a war game. Basically, the hexes would produce resources. You'd spend those resources to build armies, and you'd use the armies to go and attack other players, and you'd take over more territory, which would give you more resources and everything else. And over the 30 years, so I've been wanting to design a game. That monkey has been on my back, and it's been really annoying me for so many years that eventually, about, when was it? About 5-6 years ago, I made a decision. And I said, right, I've got so many ideas scribbled down over bits of paper that I'm going to actually do one. And I focused a lot of my effort into a game that's been called Earth 2050, Earth 2, Mars something or other, Brave New World. It's been called so many different things because the theme has been changed so many times, but it's still the core game. It is a game. It is finished. It is playable. Not very good, but it's done. And as soon as I did that, the monkey's now off my back. Of course, I still would like to, but going back to the things that you learn over years that you're good at and years that things that you're not good at, I would class myself as a good games developer. I wouldn't class myself as a good games designer. And I've realized that. So I'm focusing my efforts on helping other people develop their games. Oh, somebody at the door. So Vicky's going to have to just go downstairs. In developing other people's games. Just trying to get out without killing yourself. So yeah, I have a designed game. It is finished. I've still got a number of other ones in my head. I've got one based on a computer space sort of trading game. I had one of them, and I've got a couple of cool mechanics that have never been done before. Who was it?
Amazon.
Oh, Amazon on a Sunday. Okay, right. Is it for me or you? Oh, right. Amazon have arrived, so we're interrupting this podcast to talk about Vicky's Amazon delivery. Anyway, thank you very much for the question. Anyway, competition. One lucky listener, viewer, whatever, if you're watching this live and you want to enter the contest, you can win £25 worth of game vouchers from Games Law. So thank you very much to Games Law for donating it. What you need to do is send me an email to paul.grogan@outlook.com with the email saying fish and chips, which is what I had for lunch today. It's always food related. So yeah, if you send me an email with fish and chips, and if you are a Patreon supporter, please mention that you're a Patreon supporter and you'll get 2 entries into the competition instead of 1. Right, so yeah, fish and chips, send me an email. Next question from Rick. Should all games have solo rules? Well, yes and no. Solo gaming has become very, very popular over the last 5 or so years. Some companies, Lookout Games, will only publish a game that has a solo variant. If you have a solo variant for your game, I would always recommend it because it increases your target audience. But CGE, for example, don't make solo games. There is no game from CGE that has a solo variant. It's not something that they consider important, and they don't put any time into developing it. They put their time into developing multiplayer games. So yeah, it's hard for me to say whether they all should or whether they shouldn't, because they suit some games and not others. And being somebody who hasn't really developed any solo games, I wouldn't know where to start with it. But I do know some people that do solo variants. Next question from Adam. Have you played Star Wars Rebellion? No, I really want to, because I've heard it's really, really good. And yeah, it's not my type of game, but I do want to play it just because so many people have said it's really good. I know it can be quite long, and I don't really want to invest, you know, the hours in learning how to play as well as playing, you know, which is what puts me off certain heavy Euro games, is that I don't have the time to invest to become comfortable with the game to the point where I would enjoy it. But if I'm able to learn how to play Rebellion in an hour and then play it for 4 or 5 hours and just play it once and enjoy it, then that would be fine. I would do that. I'm just going to go back to the Facebook group and have a look for other questions on here. It's another one from, no, hang on a minute, that's not a question. Ian Turner, what would you describe as good and bad table etiquette? Well, it covers a whole variety of things. So, you know, things like eating at the table and stuff like that. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about sort of personality stuff. So, it's difficult to quantify because I've seen so much good etiquette and so much bad etiquette, and I've been guilty of bad etiquette. So if you're losing, don't go on a rant about saying how terrible the game is. And if the game's bad, if you're not enjoying the game, but other people are enjoying the game, then don't go on a rant about how bad the game is. I know if you're feeling bad because the game's terrible, and you want to express that, but when the other people at the table are actually enjoying it, then by ranting about it, you're going to make their experience of playing the game less. So just try and keep it to yourself, and then afterwards go and tell somebody else how terrible the game was, and then never play it again. And as I don't do this. If I'm having a really bad experience at playing the game because the game's terrible, I'll probably want to stop playing. But it's quite rare that happens. Other etiquette: don't be on your phone while there's a rules explanation. I know these days everybody is tied to their phone and wanting to constantly check. Oh, I've had a message. Oh, I've had a message. No, you're playing a game. Unless it's, somebody's in hospital that you know of, or if it's important, turn the phone off, turn it to silent, put it away, concentrate on the game. It's rude to the other players, especially when it's your turn and you haven't been thinking about what you can do because you've been on the phone chatting with somebody about the shopping or whatever. So yeah, there's lots and lots of good and bad etiquette. That's some of it. Susie, what's your favorite two-player specific game and why? I'm glad you said specific, so I can't say Spirit Island. Two-player specific game. I could even say something like Ashes, but even Ashes has a multiplayer variant. So if we're not going to say Ashes, what two-player games have I got that I really enjoy? I'm looking at the shelves. I don't play many two-player games. It's rare that I'm in a position where there's only two players. If somebody can post in the chat two-player games that they know of that I've got, then I'll go through them, and we'll see what we can come up with. Ian wants to know, hello Ian, this weekend you got your copy of the new Manhattan Project game. So this is the third one in the series, I think. I've not played the first one, but I have played Energy Empire, which I think is fantastic. This reminded me that some people on BGG don't agree with the theme. Are there any games that you refuse to play because of the theme? It is a good question. It was talked about a few weeks ago on some other group. Oh no, that was a name. Somebody asked me, would I refuse to play a game? Oh no, maybe it was the theme. I'm misremembering. There are a number of games out there that deal with themes which some people don't like. So Energy Manhattan Project is a game about nuclear bombs and things like that. I think Energy Empire isn't that, but you can develop nuclear power. Great Bedford, New Bedford, whatever, was about the whaling industry, and that got a huge amount of criticism. Puerto Rico, where you're putting brown little discs to work in the things, that got criticism for slavery. If you look into lots and lots of games and you look at things behind them, what's that game that had slaves in it that they changed to fakirs? Anyway, that one, you all know what I'm talking about. I can't remember what it is. 5 Tribes, that's it. That got a lot of criticism. I personally am able to sort of, first of all, I'm not offended by a game if it's recreating something that happened in history. Not necessarily, it depends how it's done. I don't have a problem playing Mombasa, for example, because I don't see it as what it is. I'm just playing the game because it's a game. Freedom and the Underground Railroad, although that's done from the side of the slaves trying to escape, so that's okay. I don't have much of a problem with that. I would have a problem with games. So Cash and Guns. I don't like playing Cash and Guns because it's a stupid game, in my opinion. Sorry if you like it. But I had a real problem when the local games cafe in the city near me had the local paper round to do an article on board games, modern board games, and what this is. And the photo that they chose to use in the newspaper to advertise a local board games cafe was 6 people sat around pointing guns at each other. That, to me, is not a good advert for modern board gaming, because families will see that, parents will see that and go, they're pointing guns at each other. I don't want my kids going to that shop when they're doing that kind of thing. So if the theme was something like, and I don't really want to say things, but if it included dark topics, that I wouldn't go anywhere near that. Yeah, that would be something that I wouldn't really want to do. Abby Cohen, what are your thoughts about being mean in games? Can a player develop a thicker skin to really enjoy the brutal games? Very good question. And I have to talk about Vicky. Even though she wasn't here, I would talk about her as well. Vicky doesn't like being mean in games. and Vicky doesn't like playing multiplayer games where there is a way that you can be mean to somebody else. And I didn't understand that. Now I do. So do I? What was the question again? What are your thoughts on being mean in games? Again, it depends on the game. And I did a podcast where we talked about Take That, and not Robbie, the game mechanic Take That. Any game which has a Take That mechanic, which is literally, oh, I have a card here that when I play it, you lose something. I don't play games like that unless it's, you know, Ashes, where the whole point is you're trying to kill your opponent. That's fine. You know, I play Hearthstone. But in a multiplayer game, if I've got a card which does absolutely nothing for me but hurts another player, I don't play those games. In a two-player game, I would play those games because it's directly competitive. And even though in a multiplayer game, it's multiplayer competitive, I just don't like the fact that you can pick on one other player. Because what always happens is people just bring in grudges, or I'm going to pick on Paul because it's his house and it'll be funny, even though he's losing. No, it's not funny, and it's not enjoyable for the people who are being picked on. If I'm winning the game and somebody picks on me because I'm winning the game, that's absolutely fine. I have no problem with that. So yeah, being mean to other people. I play the type of Euro games where that kind of player interaction is indirect. Oh, I know you're about to build a piece of the castle, and if you do, you're going to score 3 points, and you need a stone. So I'm going to place a worker on the stone space to stop you getting the stone, so you can't build the piece of the castle. But by getting the stone, I'm going to be able to do something else. That's the kind of take that I like, is you're hurting another player, but you're still doing something that gets you a benefit as well. I also believe, reminder about the competition. Yeah, drop me an email, paul.grogan@outlook.com with the word fish and chips. If you are a Patreon supporter, please say so in the email and I'll get you 2 entries into the competition. Hang on, I'm just going to finish that question, but yes. So finish the question. Will it help you develop a thicker skin? Yes. There's a few people who I've played games with who've gone on an absolute, you know, thrown their toys out of the pram because people picked on them. And as I say, if it's in the spirit, if it's part of the game and that's what you're supposed to do, then hopefully those people will learn from it. But it's one of those personalities. If you're going to throw your toys out of the pram when somebody picks on you when you're winning, then yeah, I would hope that those players would, you know, learn from that over years, and maybe if they grew up or something like that. But I've probably been guilty of doing that myself, and yeah, I need to grow up sometimes. Right, 2-player games that I own. Onitama, very, very good game, and considering how much I dislike chess, not because I don't like the game chess, but because I can't play it, because I can't think more than one move ahead. Onitama is great. Jaipur, I don't have. Talon, I wouldn't class as a 2-player game. I would always want to play Talon in a big room with real-size spaceships and 20 people per side. Patchwork, I don't actually like, and I know I'm in the minority on this. It's a good game. I don't know. It's a bit too abstract for me. And I like ones with a bit more. Lost Cities, I overplayed in the 90s. It is a great game, and it's a great game to give to non-gamers. But after I'd played it 5 times a day, every day for about a month, I was like, okay, I'm done with this now. I got a bit tired of it. And at that point, when all the players were of the same skill, it was just random. It was, you know, the cards that you get, really. Codenames Duet. Yeah, but I prefer Codenames Duet 4 players. I rarely play it 2 players. Even though it specifically is a 2-player game, it can be played with more players. Right, other questions. Any news on a Pulsar 2849 expansion? No, and it's unlikely that there's going to be one. CGE are one of the companies who, you know, those publishers who have a game and then they take out 20% of that game for use for the expansion. CGE don't do that. CGE, every single game that CGE have published, and I can guarantee this is 100% true because I'm part of the development team, every game that comes out is finished at the point that it's published. No, the expansion has not even been tested, or I can't say it hasn't been thought about, because I'm sure the designer of Tolkien had some ideas for what might be in an expansion, but no point in the development process was any part of any expansion tested or done. So there was no expansion for Pulsar at all. And I'm not currently aware that there is any work going on a Pulsar expansion. It's been received quite well, so maybe if they want to work with the designer on that, then it might happen. But there's no word on one at all. Robert, hello, Robert. What was your fish and chips with mushy peas? How did you know? Yes, it was with mushy peas. We don't always have it with mushy peas, but Vicky fancied mushy peas, so we decided to have mushy peas. And obviously, I'm from the north, so I should have had it with gravy as well, but I didn't. Francisco Correa is working on a game, something very close to your passion for baking and where you are from. It scares you to approach people to even try it, even if it's just the rules and mechanics, if they are sound. Yeah, giving your game to other people if it's been a passion of yours, and especially if it's your game, it's your baby, you've been designing it. So giving that game to other people and asking them what they think about it can be very nerve-wracking, but you're going to have to do it. Or give it to a friend and get them to do it. So when I go to conventions, I'm representing other publishers and I'm presenting their games. That has the advantage that if people don't like it, they can be absolutely honest. Well, they can be completely honest with me because they're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm there and I'm like, look, I'm getting paid to show you this game and get your feedback. And they can be as honest as they want. Whereas if I was the designer of the game and I'm like, oh, this is my game and oh, I really like it. And you go, look, your game is awful. I hate it. I never want to play it again. It doesn't work. So yeah, if you were to get a friend who you trust, who knows the game well, get them to show it to other people and that might work. But otherwise, this is something like the anxiety that we all feel when we're nervous about doing something. When you first do it, when you've taken that first step, hopefully after that it'll be okay. But find an environment that you're comfortable in. Maybe try it on friends first, as long as you can get your friends to promise to tell you whether it actually works or not. Use it on people who will be honest with you, rather than for complete strangers. Yeah, try that, see if that works. Lord of the Rings Confrontation. Yeah, I've got that. We've played that, I think. Yeah, that's actually quite a good game. It's quite old. It's like a 2-player Stratego type game. Stratego, whatever. But with each of the pieces have special abilities. What's that card game we played that was a bit like the Lord of the Ring card game? 2-player. Okay. Vicky's trying to remember a card game that we played that was a bit like the Lord of the Rings card game. Which Lord of the Rings card game?
I don't know. Where you had the thing you had to complete.
Okay, so there might be another game. And did we like it? Yeah. Well, not the Settlers card game. Yeah. Right, okay, because we played the 2-player Settlers card game a few times. Yeah. A long time ago. Right, let's go back to the Facebook questions. Gaming surfaces, worth a cloth or felt surface, big table, small big table, obviously. Play on the floor, no, because it does people's backs in. But gaming surface. Now, you know, Mark always puts a cloth on the table. I don't normally do that, but I probably would. I do quite like playing on a cloth surface. It's easier to pick up the cards, certainly, if you've got a card game. And quite often, if you're playing on a dining room table, then it might have marks on it. So yeah, I would generally always choose to play with a cloth surface. And I know Paul and Mark normally bring theirs round, and I don't. It's not something that I've ever do. Even when we're playing games around here, I quite often don't get one of my gaming surfaces. If you were a game component, this is a question in from James Mapp. If you were a game component, what would you be? I don't know. A meeple? No, that's an obvious answer, really. If I was a game component, what would I be? I'll come back to that one later, i.e. probably forget about it. Sorry, James, but I can't think about what I would be. Right. Have you played the 2010 FFG Civilization? Yes. It's here somewhere. Yeah, it's down there. I have played it, and I really enjoyed it. And it's one of those games that I really enjoyed playing when it came out. And then after many, many, many plays and all the talk on the internet was like, oh, the game's broken. If you do this, you win, or something like that. And they fixed it in the expansion. I've not played any of the expansions, but I have played the 2010 Civilization. I really would like to play the new Civilization. that they've just done, because I like Civilization style games. But again, at the moment, my time is so limited that I don't have the time to do it. But if I did, then yes, I would definitely like to try out the new Civilization. I did like the old one, but yeah, I'd like to try the new one. Right, what have we got? Another Victoria's asking, what's your favorite game involving rabbits? Do I have any game involving rabbits? I don't know whether I do have any game involving rabbits. Excuse me. I've got games involving squirrels, and what's that? No, that's got turtles in it. There's geese in Road and Boats. Anybody know of any game that involves rabbits? Bunny Bunny Moose Moose, which I don't like as a game. Sorry, Vlajo, if you're watching this, which he's not. But yeah, I don't like Bunny Bunny Moose Moose, and that has rabbits in it. So yeah, I don't know any of the games that I have that have got rabbits in them. Right, quick look on the Facebook group. Sean Perslow, is it true that each of your eyebrows has a small lizard-sized brain controlling its movement? And if so, how do you communicate with them? Yes, and telepathy. Or another question, do you think poorly laid out rulebooks are inhibiting the growth of the board game industry outside its current market? I'd have to say no. Now, a terribly written rulebook can hurt your game. If we look back at the terrible rulebooks from recent years and how it's damaged the reputation of said games, First Martians, Conan, Martians, A Story of Civilization, to pick a few. But there are a lot of terrible rule books out there. And yeah, the rule books, if it's really bad, will damage the reputation of a game. Does it stop the board game industry growing? I don't think so, for a couple of reasons. First of all, the board game industry is far bigger than us geeks that are on Board Game Geek. That's a small percentage of the board game industry. There's I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a huge percentage of people who buy board games who are not into the hobby like we are. They don't consume any board game media. They don't know what Board Game Geek is or anything like that. But they still go out and buy games. And I personally wish that I personally wish that publishers who do bad rulebooks would eventually learn and put more effort into doing good rulebooks. And some do, but some don't. Some constantly keep putting out bad rulebooks. Some of them don't care. Some of them think a rulebook is good and then don't like it when they're told that it's not good. But yeah, if I'm honest, I don't think it is hurting the growth of the industry. I think the growth of the industry means we are getting more people doing it and doing it quick, spending money on artwork and everything else, and then going, oh yeah, we got to write a rule book, right? Let's throw down some ideas on a piece of paper and that'll do. I do wish that reviewers would be more honest about rule books. If the rule book's terrible, include it as part of your review. It's part of the game. It's an important part of the game. So yeah, right. What other questions have we got on there? Have you played Hunt for the Ring? No, but that was talked about on my podcast when I interviewed Scott Alden. He was talking about Hunt for the Ring and said it was really good, and I wanted to give it a go then, and I've not had a chance. Why is this channel so cool? Hi, Robert. I don't know why it's so cool. I think it's because we've got American people who do their own YouTube channels watching it. So thank you very much. What has been the most deceptive game you've played in terms of how light and heavy it looks compared to... Oh, that's a really good question. So what is the most deceptive game that I've played in terms of how light or heavy it looks compared to how it plays? Well, the Spirit Island box looks like it's going to be a light, fluffy game. The Dungeon Pets box kind of looks like it's going to be a light and fluffy game. And both of those are like mind-burning heavy. Yeah, I think possibly those two. I mean, I knew they were heavy going into them, so I'm not sure. I mean, it's rare these days that I will buy a game without doing any research. I say rare. I probably never will these days. I might take a punt on something at Essen, but I'm not sure. Most of the time, I know what it is. But that is a good question for the chat. If anybody wants to go on the chat about a game that they bought that was completely the opposite of what they thought, or in the YouTube comments afterwards. Yeah, that's a good one. go back and play 2010 Civ with the expansions. The new one is way too streamlined. Okay, but if those expansions add lots and lots of extra rules and complexity, then yeah, again, it's time. I would have to relearn the original one. Speaking of Civ games, how about a lighter one like Flow of History? I did a rules video for Flow of History. So, you know me, I don't want to share too much of my personal information on it because I did a rules video for it that was a commissioned piece of work from TMG. Is Flow of History a Civ game? Yes, thematically, but I don't class it as a Civ game, not like Fantasy Flight Civilization, for example, which is definitely a Civ game. What was the other Civ game that I was speaking about recently? Gentis or Gentis. That is a Civ game in theme, but I don't think it plays like a Civ game. I think it just plays like a Euro game that has a Civ theme. And the Flow of History has an extremely clever bidding and sniping mechanism that is really, really clever. And it obviously has Civ as a theme, and you do have technologies that you're developing, but effectively those technologies are just giving you icons. And it really is brutal. If you get behind on military in Flow of History, you're out, more so than even in Through the Ages, something like that. Dixit has rabbit meeples. Yep. I don't like Dixit. And that's not because I don't respect that it's a good game, but I have difficulty with having to be creative about something, but not give away too much. I'm way too literal. So if I play Dixit and you give me a card which has a picture of a woman holding an umbrella, all I can think about is woman holding an umbrella. My mind is not creative enough to think outside of the box and give a clue which is trying to tell you what my card is without actually exactly telling what card. So I can't play Dixit. It's not something that I can play. Bunny Kingdom is supposed to be very, very good, and I do want to play it. I don't have it. If I did have it, then I would probably say that that's probably my favorite game with bunnies in, just because of all the people that have played it who said it's a really, really good game. Susie, which might be Susie, it might be Debs, I don't know. How do you know when you have reached the end of the main storyline in Gloomhaven? I talked about this on one of my video logs. I can't remember. Not last month's video log, because we didn't play any Gloomhaven in March because of reasons. But in February, we did play Gloomhaven, and I think I talked about it in my video log for February. But I'll talk about it here since you asked. There is one scenario which I felt was the end of the campaign. And the reason I knew it was the end of the campaign was because I downloaded the scenario flowchart to help me keep track of what we'd done and what we hadn't done, and which ones were open. Don't download that flowchart if you don't want spoilers, because seeing the flowchart was a spoiler. Seeing what led to what and where things end up was a spoiler. So I made sure the other players didn't see the flowchart because they didn't want to see it. But on that flowchart, there was one right at the end. So I was like, right, well, that's the last one. And we got to it, and we were going to do it. And we did it. And I was expecting the scenario outcome to be, congratulations, you have succeeded, and everybody's happy. It's not. It's not at all. Something big happens. And I won't say what, but something big definitely happens at the end of that scenario. But it isn't an end. There's no end. We're like, oh, right. So that big thing has happened, right? What do we do now? Well, you know that woman who gave us a job like a year and a half ago? Well, should we go back and see if she still wants the job done? Yeah, okay. It's a living world. And even when you have finished that scenario, and I don't really want to say what number it is, but once you finish that one, you just go on and you carry on doing other stuff. So yeah, there isn't that one feels like it was certainly the end of that particular storyline, but there is more than one main storyline in there. Right, Coon versus Lockyer is a decent rabbit game, and divorcing rabbits is possibly right. No, I've heard of it, but I didn't know it was about divorcing rabbits. Interesting. So if you want a game about rabbits getting divorced, then Coon versus Lockyer is it. How do you cope with Mysterium? Mysterium, absolutely fine. I have no problem with that because I'm trying to give you direct clues, and I'm not doing it by having to be creative and say something outside of the box. So yeah, you are being a little bit creative, but I am trying to guide you exactly to that question. It's like in Codenames. I'm trying to give you a clue to directly get you to guess my words whilst avoiding the assassins, I suppose. But yeah, I have a real problem with Dixit. It's the same problem that I have with Fake Artist, and Vicky has it as well, is that you're trying to draw something to make it clear to the other people that you know what it is you're drawing, but without giving exactly what you're drawing away to the spy, not the spy, the fake artist. And it's the same in Spyfall. So games like that make me nervous and make me feel anxious. So I generally don't like playing them because that's not a good feeling. Vasco da Gama game over my right shoulder. Yes, Vasco da Gama. Where is it? Let's try and... All of my Watch Your Game games should be in a pile. So yeah, Asgard, Vasco da Gama, Zhanguo, Madeira, the Old Vignos, Nippon, and Signoria. And Railroad Revolution is down here. That should be up there. So yes, that is Vasco da Gama. Played it like 3 times. I remember liking it. There is a hurdle in the rules. The rulebook is quite well written, I think, but the gameplay was a little bit unusual, and it needs a couple of games to get used to it. And it's one that I would like to go back to. Right, Nikki, hope to see your gaming rules for Dungeon Alliance. I don't know Dungeon Alliance. It rings a bell, but as far as I know, I'm not planning to do any rules for Dungeon Alliance, I'm afraid. So yeah, unless there's something that I've agreed to that I don't know about. If there is, then please let me know. Right, so that's it for the questions on the Facebook group. I'm just going to go to my Board Game Geek Guild, because Andy, who said he was going to join in, is Andy Grant in? No, right. He loses friendship points. No, it's all right. Let's have a look. Board Game Geek. Andy asked a question. Oh, Graham's asked a question as well. I'll get to that in a minute. Should the author of the rulebook be on the board game box front cover? No, I don't think so. Now, as a rulebook writer and editor, it's nice to be credited in the back of the rulebook with who wrote the rulebook. And 5 years ago, I never looked at that. Now I do. I look in rulebooks. If it's especially well written and well edited, I will look at who did it. If it's terrible, I will also look at it, because it's my profession now. It's professional curiosity. You know, if it's a terrible rulebook, I kind of want to know. I'm happy to say that some of the rule books that I've been involved in have the gaming rules logo on the back, which is a kind of mark of a quality assurance kind of thing, that if you buy this game, then you should be able to learn how to play from the rule book. It does mean that some of the rule books that I'm involved with, I'm a bit nervous if my logo is on the box. If I haven't been fully involved in that, yeah, sometimes it's on the box. But I don't think it should go on the front cover at all. I think the name of the designer should go on the front cover. I think the name of the publisher should be on the front cover. And whilst I believe that the rulebook is an absolutely vital component to that game, I don't think the rulebook writer should be on the box. It'd be nice to have them on the back of the box, maybe. Rulebook written by Paul Grogan would be quite a nice thing, if the publisher feels that that's necessary. Right, more questions. Should there be more national tournaments for games? I mean, Fantasy Flight have theirs, and they're quite big, and having organized play events for games does increase the popularity of games. Do I think there should be more? I don't know. I mean, it's mainly around the, you know, things like Magic the Gathering and Netrunner, and you know, your competitive 2-player card games are perfectly suited to tournaments. But tournaments for other board games, yeah, I'm not sure. You know, if there were, I wouldn't really get involved in them. And I think that board games are more temporary than your card games. There are not many board games out there which will be still popular years and years later. There probably is, you know, something like Settlers of Catan. There probably is a UK championship for Settlers of Catan. I think there is, because Claire and Keith, 2 friends of mine in Hertfordshire, they took part in it. I think Claire does quite well. So games like that, yeah, and probably Carcassonne there probably is. But for other games, I'm not sure. I don't think it would. I don't think it would be popular enough to make it worthwhile. Oh, Andy is here. Oh, hello, Andy. So Andy gets +5 friendship points for working out how to use the chat. How do you organize your games? You'll probably see how my games are organized. The Watch Your Game games are all here. That's it. There's no other organization. And what's really strange is now that the Kallax shelves are in, it seems harder to find games than it was when they were all just piled up on the floor. There's been many times I've come in here looking for a game, and I'm looking and I'm looking, and I'm like 5 minutes later and I still can't find it. And you've had that same problem as well. Vicky's had the same problem when she's come in looking for a game. So, well, there was once. So therefore, yes, you have had the same problem. So yeah, they're not organized in any way. If I was to spend a day and reorganize them alphabetically, they'd get out of sync straight away. So I don't bother. I don't bother organizing them. They're kind of organized by size. So yeah, all of the square boxes will be together, and all of the other boxes will be together, because then I can put something else next to them. I have meant to put all of my Stefan Feld games together, so I probably will do that at some point. Other questions? Right, we're up to 43 unique scenarios in Gloomhaven. So this is Paul from Games Law. 43 unique scenarios. You did 5 yesterday. How do you do 5 in a day? We used to do 2, and now we can only do 1. Yeah, 5's crazy. So if you're up to 43 unique scenarios, we've only done 28, I think, unique scenarios. So you've done way more than we have. But that's not to say that you finished the main storyline that we did, because we took a very direct short route to that. So while Paul's here, just a quick reminder, Paul from Games Law is giving a £25 gift voucher to one lucky viewer. So if you're watching this live, not if you're watching it later on YouTube, then if you send me an email to paul.grogan@outlook.com with the words fish and chips in the text, in the body text, and if you're a patron supporter, let me know that in the email as well, and I'll enter you into the competition. Let's just do a quick check. How many emails have I had? More than 1. Right, okay. So yeah, you do have a chance of winning if you enter the contest. And Chris Taylor won last month, I think, and bought some Game of Thrones stuff. Right, Adam, any tips on how to speed up gameplay in Gloomhaven? The AP fork isn't working for you. Right. We don't try to speed it up with us, because Gloomhaven for us is now more of a social occasion. It's the same 4 of us every time. We have food, we chat before, we chat afterwards. We concentrate on the game when we're playing the game. We don't drift off to other topics when we're playing the game, but we also don't rush it. There's enough pressure in the game already that we don't want to rush it. So yeah, if we rushed it and played quicker, we'd probably get a scenario done in 2.25 hours, maybe 2.5. Sometimes we take 3. But yeah, usually it's around 2.5. I don't know how you can speed up gameplay. You can speed up setup, certainly, by working out what scenario you're going to do next at the end of the previous session, or discussing it beforehand, making sure everybody spent their money, everybody decides whether to get blessings or not, and then set it all up. That will save a lot of time. But actually speeding up the gameplay, yeah, I'm not sure how you would speed that up. Right, Raphael wants to know, do you also play digital board games, or digital games similar to board games, turn-based strategy ones? Yes, I used to play a lot of digital versions of board games, and then I kind of stopped. I play a lot of Hearthstone because it's just fun and it's enjoyable, even though it's quite random. And I don't play Hearthstone seriously. I do the arenas and I do the dungeons and I do the challenges, but I don't generally play constructed that much. And if I do, I just throw a deck together to complete quests. But I play that for fun. But after last weekend, was it last weekend? Yeah, last weekend, when I played a few games of Mystic Vale, Ian said, oh, you can play Mystic Vale on Yucata. So I was like, oh, right. So I've started playing Mystic Vale on Yucata. And Yucata also has Navigador, Mac Gert's game, which I love. And I don't play as much as I want to. So since then, I'm now involved in 2 online games of Navigador on Yucata, and I'm involved in 2 games of Mystic Vale as well. And I think I've played another game of something else on that I can't remember. Turn-based games, I don't have the time to say, right, I'm now going to play an online game with somebody. I'd love to, but I don't have the time for that. However, I need a quick break from this video. I'll just open my window, and 2 minutes later, I've done my turns, gone. And I feel that I'm now playing more board gaming because of that, because I'm actually playing those games right now, and I did a turn when I got back this morning. It's because it only takes me like 30 seconds or a minute to do my turn, and then it's gone. So it isn't really invasive into my time. Boitageur, the French website, that is my favorite online interface for playing turn-based games, and there's loads on there. As I say, I'm using Ucata as well. There's Board Game Arena. There's a few of them, but I don't do live play. Question from Joshua Anderson. Perhaps D&D will be... we need to scroll up a bit. Perhaps D&D 6th edition will play like Gloomhaven. I don't know anything about 6th edition. I've been a D&D player since 1st edition. I stopped in 3.5 when I moved down to Devon. Well, Somerset. I stopped. I read loads of the 4th edition books, and I really wanted to play 4th edition because it was playing a lot like a multiplayer online game. And I thought that the rules were very clean, and I really did want to play it. I didn't. Then 5th edition came out. I've lost the itch to play it. So I don't know anything about 6th edition. It seems too soon for a 6th edition. 5th edition doesn't seem that long away. But I'm completely out of role-playing now, totally. Board Game Ramblings, hello. Thank you for dropping in. I hope you're doing all right. Played anything good lately? What's good that I've played lately? Lately, I've played a lot of good games. I mean, we played Word Slam with Vicky's parents yesterday. That's always a good laugh. We played a top secret game that I can't talk about, which I think was good, although I didn't play it. What else did I play recently? So, yeah, at Bacon, I didn't play many games, but I did play Mystic Vale, which I quite enjoyed. What else did I play? Spirit Island, Tokyo Highway. Yeah, I think recently most of the games I've played have been pretty good. I do try and keep my geek list updated, although I've been a bit slack on that recently. But my video log at the end of the month will go through all of the games I've played. So if you haven't watched my video log for March, and you want to know all of the games that I played in March and me talk a little bit about each one, then go and watch that. Robert, Patreon stretch goal for playing a game online. I could do, but then who would I play online with? That's actually a good thing. I think actually my executive producer goal, my executive producer level was once every 6 months, I will spend like half an hour or an hour of my time with you doing something. And I've kind of left it up to the executive producers to decide what they want. The Patreon campaign has now been alive 6 months. So I am fully aware that those people who have been executive producers of mine since the start, I now owe you some of my time to do something. And if you want to play a game with me online, then I would be more than happy to do that. Or if you just want to have a chat about something, I'd be more than happy to do that as well. Graham, did they fix the top secret game? Well, I told them that was a problem, and they said, thank you very much for letting us know. The game's still in development. It's unlikely to be coming out this year. So there's like 18 months left of development on that before we do anything. Speaking of Graham sent me another question on the on the Board Game Geek Guild. Right, thank you very much, Graham. Graham has sent me a list of 25 words on Codenames and given the clue Paul Grogan 9. So I'll answer that later on. But that's a brilliant idea. Thank you very much. So there is a Codenames puzzle linked. So on my Board Game Geek Guild thread where I asked for questions, there is a little game on there that Graham's posted. So it's a picture of 25 words. And the clue is Paul Grogan 9. So pick the 9 words associated with me. So peanut, yeah, definitely. Hawaii, no. Helicopter, yeah, because I've got a Gaming Rules helicopter. Beard, I have a beard. Pants, I wear pants. Squirrel, because I dressed up in his sleep because I don't get any. Yeah, good one. So anyway, I'll come back to that later on. But there is a little Codenames contest there. You can see it. So if you want to join in on that, then that's over on the Board Game Geek Guild thread. Right, what you're pointing. There's no more questions. And it's 6 o'clock. What time did we start? 5? So there's no more questions. Oh, no, there is one more question. Matt, did you play Decrypto? No, but CGE have been talking about Decrypto a bit because 2 of the games that we were playing at the secret CGE weekend the other weekend were word games, sort of like code cracking. and somebody came up and said, oh, have we seen Decrypto? And so basically we all need to go and have a look at Decrypto to see if it is a bit too similar to the one that we're doing. And I think the designer looked at it and he went, oh, right, yeah, it is a little similar. And that's always the problem with designing games, is that you design a game and you start telling people about it and they go, oh, right, yeah, it's just like such and such a thing. And you're like, oh, I've never heard of that. And you look into it and you find that, oh, yeah, somebody else has been designing a game that's very, very similar. And even if you were designing it beforehand so that you weren't copying theirs, if you put it out after theirs, people will be like, oh, yeah, you've just copied that one. So you can't win. It's very difficult to, you know, design a unique game and then suddenly find that somebody else has, somebody else has done it at the same time or beforehand. What's your favorite? What's your game? I am allowed to say that. Which one was it? It's probably Madeira. Madeira that was my favorite game of 2013. Now Madeira is quite inaccessible by modern standards because it's quite heavy. The rulebook is really good, but the game is complex, and the game has a couple of concepts in it which are difficult to explain in person, let alone in writing. And it took a few games to get used to playing it, but when I did, I think the game is absolutely fantastic. But it is heavy. Nippon is my second favorite game, and Nippon is probably more accessible as a game. So if you were to come to me and say, Paul, teach me a what's your game, and I ask you, what kind of game do you want? Do you want a super heavy 3-hour game? And you're like, yeah, I'll play Madeira. If you want a 90-minute medium or medium to heavy, then I would suggest Nippon. So Nippon has a wider audience, but Madeira for me scratches a bit more of an itch. Do you like Madeira cake? Yes, I do like Madeira cake. Okay, so you already like Nippon and Signoria. Yeah, I like Signoria. The disadvantage with Signoria is they put it out in the same year as Nippon, so it fell a bit under the radar. The bit that I don't like with Signoria, I'm going to say this even though I'm not supposed to be critical of games that anyway, I'm going to. I think Signoria should be a 6-round game. And my house rule, I've got 3 house rules for Signoria. And one of them is that you play to 6 rounds. The 7th round, the game was already quite long. The 7th round for me felt pointless. Everything's on the board, everything's set up, and you can't do very much. It just felt like it was unnecessary. So I think it should be 6 rounds. But Signoria is a good game. The problem is they put it out in the same year as Nippon, and they put out 2 big box games that year. And I think they regretted it afterwards, because I think Nippon was so good, it kind of hurt the sales of Signoria, but it is a solid game. Can we do a gaming rules video on Madeira? I'm afraid if What's Your Game want me to do one, then I would love to do one. But my rules videos are all commissioned because they take me 25 to 50 hours to create. And there's no way that I can take off that amount of time from paid work to do something like that. Now, of course, if my Patreon campaign in a year's time ends up being, let's say double the amount that it is at the moment, then all of a sudden my Patreon campaign will not only be covering my time to create these podcasts and Q&As and everything else, but I will feel the need to give something back. So let's just say that, yeah, if my Patreon campaign ends up being really successful, and let's say it brings in $2,000 a month when my goal is $1,000 a month, then I will put that $1,000 a month and I'll say, right, I will now take another 2 or 3 days or whatever off paid work, and I will do something for my Patreon supporters. And if you want a video for, you know, roads and boats, I'll do a rules video for roads and boats. So yeah, it all depends. The amount of Patreon content I can do depends on how much money I'm getting in from the Patreon campaign, which is effectively how much time off I can take off from the paid work. Right, some other questions. Another one from Susie and Debs. If you could play a game with any celebrity, living or dead, who would that be and what game? Who do I like as a celebrity? I mean, I'm thinking actors. As soon as you say celebrity, I watch films and I watch TV programs. I don't really have anything else. Well, Formula One as well. I watch Formula One, but So I think it would be pretty cool to get Lewis Hamilton round, just because he's never ever going to happen. And interestingly, I used to live in Welling Garden City, and Lewis Hamilton, everybody says he's from Stevenage. He's not from Stevenage. He's from a place called Chewin, which is near Stevenage, and Chewin was about a mile away from where I used to live. So basically, I'm his best mate, is what I'm saying. No, if he came, that would be cool. If he came round, what game would I play with him? What game would I play with Lewis? Mage Knight, because it's the best game ever. No, I would actually, if I had any celebrity round, I would play a game with them, which is a gateway game. It would be something like King Domino or something like that. You know, a 15-minute good game that introduces them to the modern board gaming hobby, or something like Codenames. You know, I'd get a load of Formula One drivers around and play Codenames with them. That would be cool. Right. So, Matt, you found lately an interesting question going around the internet and would love your take on it. Are you afraid that the increasing transfer of board games into apps can hurt our hobby? Am I afraid that it will hurt our hobby? No, I don't think it will hurt our hobby at all. I think it will enable our hobby to grow, because some people will get board games as apps. There's somebody I used to know, and I might still know them, and I can't remember, but they told me that they got into board gaming because they played the Le Havre app. Now, how a non-gamer discovers the Le Havre app, I don't know, but they started playing it, they liked it, then they found that there were these things called board games, because this was a board game, and suddenly they found the board gaming hobby. Sure, there are people who are going to be sitting there playing board games on their apps instead of going out and playing games with other people. It's fine, but I don't think it's going to hurt the hobby. I think it's going to introduce the board gaming hobby to more and more people, because iPads are so, you know, they are everywhere now. People have them, phones, everybody's got apps, everybody's playing games on their apps. So I think it's only going to help our hobby and not hurt the hobby. Do I like Roads and Boats? I like Roads and Boats. It has its flaws. It's very, very long. It's very, very fiddly. You know, hundreds of little tiny pieces and remembering who's moved where. It's extremely fiddly. But I like logistics. I like picking something up, moving it somewhere else, especially on a donkey, dropping it off somewhere and building something. You know, I love that. The first time I played Roads and Boats, I was expecting this to be a multiplayer solitaire game, and I was absolutely happy with that. I would be more than happy just playing a game where I move stuff around. Those computer games that you play where you pick up stuff and you move it here and you build it, love them. And the first time we played Roads and Boats, we played it, and the first half of the game was like, oh yeah, you're going over there, you're building that, it's all great. And then all of a sudden, Marcus moved his donkeys into my area and picked up all of my stuff and walked off with it. And I was like, oh yeah, Roads and Boats is one of the most brutal games I have in my collection. It is absolutely, there's no fighting in it whatsoever, but it is absolutely brutal. So yeah, definitely not multiplayer solitaire. But yeah, I do enjoy it. Paul taught us how to play Roads and Boats at Manacon. He didn't do the voice. I'm sorry, Graham. I've told them, you know, I do the voice when I'm reading a script out to you. Yeah, so Vicky knows what the voice is. I'm probably doing the voice right now because I'm talking to the camera. So yeah, very sorry, Graham. The next time I teach you how to play a game, remind me and I will do the voice. Right, more from Raphael. But Mage Knight is the best game ever. Yes, definitely. Give him 10 points somehow. Right. Board Game Ramblings. If you had to choose to only play light, medium, or heavy games, right, if I could only choose one of those three, I'd say medium. If I could choose one of 5, I'd say medium to heavy. Medium to heavy is my sweet spot. But again, everybody has their own, you know, the guys from Heavy Cardboard, everything that I say, they knock down one category. And people who are used to lighter games would increase my category by 1. So I class Madeira as a heavy game. Heavy Cardboard would probably say it's medium heavy because they play crazy heavy games. And people who play King Domino would say Madeira is unplayably heavy, for example. So for me, medium to heavy would be my sweet spot if I could only pick one. But if you're only giving me a choice of 3, then it would be medium. Joanna, hello, Joanna. You lived in Hertfordshire and then Hatfield for over 30 years. And the Stevenage and the Lewis Hamilton connection always used to amuse me when I knew he was really from Turin. Yes, so I assume you're a Formula One person as well. But if not, then yeah, it was quite cool. And I moved away. When did he join Formula One? 2017. No, that was last year. 2007. I was just moving away. Yeah, I moved down to Somerset in 2007. So that was, I think I moved here the year that he joined Formula One. Right, Matt, just going back to what we were saying earlier on about apps, Matt has heard voices saying if we tell them that there is a physical copy of this game, and then young people would simply say, well, I own the app, so why would I reach for the normal game? Yeah, you're absolutely right, but some of them will. And the fact is that if that board game app didn't exist, we're not going to get anybody crossing over. So yeah, what's your play account recommendation for Mage Knight? 2 or 3? Never 4. Mage Knight is arguably the best solo game around, but I'm not a big solo gamer. I'm just not keen on it. I like playing games with at least one other person. So probably 2-player Mage Knight is the best in terms of your return on investment. With 3 players, there'll be a little bit of downtime, unless you're playing fast. With 4 players, there's crushing downtime. So avoid 4 players. There's 13 minutes remaining on the battery as well, so we do need to be wrapping this up a little bit, and I'm hungry. Right, Matt, since your time is so crazy loaded with everything, how many times during a week do you find time to play random games that you would enjoy? It really depends. The last 4 or 5 weeks for me have been crazy, but normally it would be at least twice a week on a Monday and a Friday, and sometimes 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and a Friday. So yeah, and because the work has sort of bled into my private time, Friday we were playtesting a rulebook that I'd written, so that ended up being work the Friday that's just gone. But at least half of the time I try and do my own stuff. So it's games night tomorrow, and I'm hoping to play some games and take the night off from work. Right, so competition reminder before we wrap things up. Sorry, but we are going to have to wrap things up now for various reasons. The laptop's running out of battery and I'm hungry. If you want to enter the contest to win £25 worth of game vouchers from Games Law, you need to send me an email, which is paul.grogan@outlook.com, and you need to send this now while this video is going out live, not when you watch it tomorrow. And in the email, include the words fish and chips. And if you're a Patreon supporter, please mention that in the email as well. And I will be doing the draw after we've had dinner. I'll do the draw tonight. And yeah, one of you is going to win £25 worth of game vouchers. So thanks again to Games Law in the UK for effectively sponsoring this live Q&A by donating a prize. And if you do win, then please let us know let us know what you win with it. So yeah, so that's everything. So no, if you want to say goodbye to everybody in the chat, thank you very much for joining in. Thanks for all the questions. I'm kind of glad we got fewer questions on the Facebook group and on Board Game Geek, because I was able to answer more of your live questions. I thought it might have been a half-an-hour show, but yeah. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I will see you again same time next month. And as I say, if you want to know what I've been up to in the month, go and check out the last Gaming Rules video log, which was for March. Yeah, take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I'll speak to you soon.